They didn't just steal my house. They rewrote the story of my life, cast me as a footnote, and handed the title role to a blonde Instagram influencer with a fake Gucci belt and a manifestation journal. Hey, my name's Nick. I'm 30, live in Chandler, Arizona, and I built a quiet, disciplined life that was finally starting to feel like mine until my brother and his girlfriend decided it was theirs. But we'll get there. Trust me, the end of this story is worth every second. It's not just about revenge. It's about reclaiming power when the people closest to you try to strip it away and doing it smart. If you've ever been the responsible one, the quiet provider, the so-called reliable son who gets nothing but guilt trips in return, hit that like button. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever had to choose between your peace and your bloodline, yeah, you're not alone. Let me take you back. I wasn't born with anything handed to me. My dad was a construction laborer. Mom worked as a substitute teacher only when the school district needed her. We were the generic brand family growing up. Hand-me-downs from Goodwill, powdered milk, and if we went on vacation, it meant camping in a leaky tent during monsoon season. I didn't resent it. I just understood early that if I wanted more, I'd have to build it myself. At 12, I mowed lawns. At 14, I had a paper route. By 16, I was pulling 25 hours a week at Best Buy while keeping a 3.8 GPA and playing tennis. I paid for my own gas, my own insurance, my own clothes. Meanwhile, my younger brother Jake, he was the golden boy, football star, smooth talker, never met a responsibility he couldn't sweet-talk someone else into absorbing. When I got a used Toyota with 190,000 miles that I paid for in quarters, and Sweat Jake got a used Mustang, paid for by my dad, who was still wearing the same pair of work boots from 1998. College, I went to In-State University for construction management, worked part-time the entire 4 years, lived on ramen, and graduated with zero debt. Jake. My parents took out loans for him, big ones. He dropped out junior year, said his band was on the verge. Spoiler, his band never made it past the dive bars in Tempe. Meanwhile, I got hired straight out of school, grinded for promotions, and eventually landed a role as senior project manager, pulling 6 figures. But I never upgraded my life the way people expected. I didn't buy a flashy truck or move into a high-rise. I lived in a 400 square feet apartment, drove a 2015 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles, and packed my lunch every day. Every dollar went toward one goal: a house. My house. Not a condo, not a duplex, a single-family home with a yard, a garage, and walls I didn't share. In 2021, I finally did it. $275,000. I scraped together $55,000 for the down payment, wiped my savings clean, and I didn't touch a credit card to furnish it. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, estate sales, bit by bit, piece by piece, the place became mine. I didn't tell my family much about it. I let them believe I bought a tiny condo. I was deliberately vague, not out of shame but protection, because in my family, the moment they know you have something, they find a way to need it. I had learned the less they knew, the safer my peace. And then came the housewarming, not a party, just me and Tony, my best friend since college, sweating through a Saturday installing ceiling fans in the Arizona heat. Tony's the kind of guy who looks like he bench presses pickup trucks for fun, and speaks with the unfiltered wisdom of someone who's survived enough dysfunction to spot it from a mile away. He once told me, mid-wiring job, sweat pouring from his forehead, every family's got a pack mule, the one that carries everyone else financially, and that mule either collapses or throws the whole damn pack off his back. I laughed at the time. I shouldn't have. The house became my sanctuary, home office in the front room, gym in the garage, gaming setup in the spare bedroom with a custom-built PC, backyard fire pit I built from YouTube tutorials, coffee on the patio every morning at 6 a.m., Netflix by night, no chaos, no obligations, just peace. Until January 2023, the day Jake called. Hey, man, Long story short, Britt and I had some trouble with our lease. New place isn't ready yet. We just need a spot for, 3 weeks max. Promise. I hesitated. He added, "We'll pitch in for groceries, utilities. It's temporary. Bro, I swear." I said yes. Because deep down, despite everything, I still believed in that old school idea of family, of helping your blood when they needed you. So I laid down rules. 1 guest room, pitch in for bills, clean up after yourselves. Simple. What I didn't expect was a full-sized U-Haul pulling into my driveway the next morning. I watched from my kitchen window, coffee in hand, as Brittany stood outside in pink platform sandals, barking orders at Jake like a general. "That box goes in the living room." No, the living room. Be careful with my crystals. I blinked. Tony happened to be over again that morning, tweaking the wiring on the porch light. He looked at me, looked at the truck, and said flatly, "That's not a temporary stay. That's a hostile takeover." And that, ladies and gentlemen, was when everything started to unravel. Brittany stepped into my house like she was filming an HGTV pilot. First words out of her mouth, "Wow, this place is actually kind of cute. We could definitely make this work long term." We long term. I stared, stunned, as she started shifting my furniture without asking. My vintage movie posters taken down, replaced with mass-market canvas prints that said things like, "Live, laugh, love, and I am abundance." My ergonomic gaming chair, shoved aside for her massive pink velvet ottoman. She set up an elaborate skincare station in the bathroom with so many serums. It looked like a pharmacy exploded. "Oh, don't worry about the changes," she told me sweetly. "I studied interior design for a semester, before I realized my true calling is helping people unlock their feminine energy." By day 3, she was ordering DoorDash twice a day and having me sign for it. By day 5, she gave my address to her nail tech for in-home appointments, while I was on Zoom meetings in my own house. By day 7, she was going live on TikTok to her 3,000 followers, giving healing sessions from what she called our sacred space. Our space. No, this was my house. And yet, somehow, I could feel myself slowly being erased from it. Tony started keeping score. "Give it 2 months," he said one night, over beers in the backyard. "She'll have moved into your bedroom and started charging you rent." I laughed. But something inside me didn't. Because the thing about being the reliable one, the one who never causes a fuss, is that people start to believe your silence means consent. They mistake peace for permission. And soon, you forget what your own voice sounds like, until the moment it comes roaring back. And for me, that moment was when I caught my own mother giving Brittany a tour of the house. "This is the master suite," she said. "Jake and Brittany are going to make such a beautiful home here." That's when I realized this wasn't just a favor. This was a full-blown coup. And that, my friends, was when the pack mule started bucking. I should have known it the moment I saw my mom standing in my living room, arms folded like she was the realtor, grinning as Brittany floated around pointing at things she didn't buy, didn't build, didn't earn. "This is where we could hang the macrame," Brittany chirped, "and Jake can turn that office into his music studio." My mom added, "You've really created such a lovely starter home, Nick." Starter home. Like I was just the warm-up act, the placeholder, the stagehand setting up someone else's spotlight. That word hit me in the gut. And the worst part, my mother didn't even flinch. Later that night, I asked her point blank, "What were you doing here, Mom?" She blinked, totally unbothered. "Brittany invited me, said she wanted to show me what she's been working on." Working on, it's not a DIY Pinterest project, it's my house. She smiled, that sugary, patronizing smile she always used when I got too sensitive as a kid. "You know, it's good for Jake to finally have something stable. You're so lucky to be able to support your brother like this." Support. Support what his TikTok famous girlfriend's healing crystal empire. his dream of becoming the next post-punk indie sensation at 31. I didn't say that. Instead, I nodded, like always. And I felt something in my chest shrink. After they left, I wandered through the house like a stranger. The hallway light dimmer had been reset. Brittany said bright lighting messed with her aura. My bookshelf had been reorganized by vibration color instead of author. She left a handwritten sticky note on my copy of Dune Heavy Masculine Energy. Maybe let this one go. In the bathroom, my razor had been shoved into a drawer I couldn't even open without moving 4 trays of serums and oils, and some weird singing bowl. And on the wall in the kitchen, my college diploma framed, hard-earned, had been flipped face down on the counter. In its place, a wooden plaque that read, "Abundance is your birthright." It's not just the space they took. They were slowly replacing my identity bit by bit with their own performance of healing and co-creation. I'm all for positive energy, but this wasn't positivity. This was erasure, and it wasn't accidental. It was calculated. Tony, bless him, started showing up more, yay. He pretended he needed to fix things. Bro, your smoke detector's beeping again. It wasn't. He just knew I needed someone to witness this slow invasion. He stood next to me in the garage, my one untouched space, as I told him what happened. He cracked open a beer and didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, they don't respect you because you don't require respect. I stared at him. He continued, you do everything right. You build, you save, you sacrifice, and you think that's enough. But people like them, they don't speak the language of quiet effort. They only notice what makes noise. He took a sip. So maybe it's time you make some noise. But I wasn't ready yet. See, the hardest part about betrayal from your family isn't the action. It's the gaslighting afterward, the way they make you feel like you're the one overreacting, like being violated should be seen as generosity, like being erased is actually a compliment. A week later, things got worse. Brittany cornered me in the kitchen while I was prepping lunch, my usual chicken and rice. Nick, we need to talk. Great. She smiled. All teeth. Jake and I have been talking. We're really trying to build something sustainable together. A brand, a lifestyle. And we were wondering. Pause. Tilt of the head. Cue the fake sincerity. Would you consider putting Jake's name on the deed? I dropped the fork. What? She didn't blink. Just temporarily. For security. It would really help with our business credit score. And you'd still be the primary owner. Of course. It's just paperwork. Let me translate that for you. Give us half of your house. No takebacks. Because vibes. I asked where Jake was. Oh, she said breezily. He's out recording, but he told me to talk to you. He said you'd understand. I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I just turned, walked into my garage, and shut the door. And sat. In the silence, surrounded by my weights, my tools, my actual life, the things I'd built and sweated for. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel confused. I felt clear. That night, I went digging. Old lease agreements, utility bills, property tax statements. I double-checked every legal thread tying me to this house. And guess what? The house was fully in my name. No co-owners, no loopholes, no accidental entitlements. Even better, I drafted a simple rental agreement when Jake moved in, just to have something in writing. It wasn't notarized, but it included rules, boundaries, payment expectations. It wouldn't hold up in full-blown court, but it would give me leverage, just enough. That same night, I ordered 2 things online, a smart home security system, and a mini hidden camera with sound. Tony helped me install them. Because now I had a plan. And it started with one very simple step. Stop acting like I owed anyone anything. But before I made my move, I found out something else. Something that made my stomach twist. Brittany had filed a change of address form. To my house. She'd listed it as her business address. Her LLC was officially tied to my home. That meant she was receiving mail client packages, invoices, everything under my roof, legally. She was setting up shop, digging in. This wasn't just temporary. This was colonization. I took the letter confirmation from USPS and walked into the living room. Jake was gaming. Brittany was mid-live stream. I held up the paper. "Did you change your business address to my house?" She muted her phone. I didn't think it'd be a problem. This place has good energy. "Good energy," I repeated. She smiled. "Don't be so rigid. Nick, we're family." That was the moment. Not the diploma on the counter. Not the crystals in my shower. Not the lipstick stains on my coffee mug. This. The absolute audacity of claiming my labor as her birthright. That's when the last fuse blew. And I knew exactly what to do next. Because if they wanted to play legal games, then I was going to make damn sure they'd regret trying to steal from the wrong man. There's a switch in your brain that flips when you finally realize no one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your good upbringing, not the belief that if you just stay kind and patient, things will work themselves out. That switch. It flipped the moment Brittany looked me in the eye and said, "Don't be so rigid. Nick, we're family." As if family is a blank check. As if blood entitles you to everything someone else builds. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not out of anger, not out of fear. Out of calculation. I lay there in the dark, barely hearing the hum of the air conditioning, the occasional distant bark from a neighbor's yard, and I made my first real decision in months. No more defense. Time to play offense. Step 1 was subtle. I changed the Wi-Fi password. Jake texted me 5 minutes later. "Jake, yo, did the internet go out? Me resetting the router. Should be back soon." It wasn't. I'd created a separate guest network, limited bandwidth, tracked activity, monitored devices. Suddenly, Brittany's live streaming got glitchy. Her TikTok healing ceremonies began freezing mid-affirmation. The tantrum came quick. "My business depends on this, Nick." I just smiled. Must be the desert air. Step 2, boundaries enforced. I pulled out the lease agreement I'd written up when they moved in, handed them a copy. "Let's revisit this," I said calmly. "Rent is $650 a month. Utilities are split. Kitchen hours need to be coordinated. No mail under your name unless I approve it." Jake scoffed. "Dude, we're family. That lease was just for looks." Brittany chimed in. "Honestly, this feels toxic. You're trying to control us." "I'm setting expectations," I replied, the same way any adult roommate would. They stormed off, slammed the door. But I noticed something beautiful, the panic in Brittany's eyes. Because control is everything to people like her, and this was the first time she wasn't the one holding the wheel. Step 3, prepare legal armor. I called a lawyer. Not a fancy downtown firm, just a solo practitioner in Mesa who specialized in landlord-tenant law. We talked for an hour. I showed him the lease, explained the situation, shared my camera footage, Jake rifling through my mail, Brittany live streaming from my bedroom without consent, packages arriving under her business name. He nodded, scribbled notes, then looked up and said, "You've got more than enough grounds to remove them. But you need to build a clean timeline. No confrontation, just documentation." Got it. I bought a small planner the next day, old school, spiral bound, hardcover. Every strange charge, every noise complaint, every missing grocery item, every time they borrowed my car for Instacart runs. Every detail written down. But what really sealed it wasn't Brittany. It was my parents. Because, as it turns out, the betrayal wasn't done. A week after the lease discussion, my mom came over alone. She brought brownies, smiled, sat at my kitchen island like nothing had happened. "I think you're being a little harsh with Jake and Britt," she began. "They need support right now. Brittany's business is finally taking off. Jake is helping her build something amazing. And you, well, you have a good job. You're doing fine. I stared at her. Are you seriously asking me to hand over half my house because I'm doing okay? It's not handing over, she said gently. It's sharing. Isn't that what families do? And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just about my brother, or Brittany. This was learned entitlement, handed down like a family heirloom. They saw me as a resource, not a person. A golden goose, a walking safety net, a reliable plan B. And I realized something chilling. If I didn't stop this now, it would never end. Tony, as always, was the mirror I needed. I called him that night, pacing my garage, voice tight with rage. You ever feel like your family wants you around only when you're useful? He didn't hesitate. Every damn year of my 20s. I stopped pacing. Tony continued. I co-signed a loan for my cousin once. He defaulted, tanked my credit. When I confronted him, he said, "You're good with money. You'll bounce back." Like that made it okay. He paused. Being capable isn't a crime, bro, but letting people weaponize it, that's where you lose yourself. That's when I told him everything: the plan, the lawyer, the timeline. He didn't laugh. He didn't question it. He just said, "It's about time." And then he gave me the final piece. You still have that old Ring camera I gave you for Christmas? I blinked. Yeah. Put it up, facing the front door, and make sure it's recording sound. Why? Because when people feel the walls closing in, they say things they don't realize are being recorded, and that's when you strike. So I did. That weekend, I installed the camera, quiet, discreet. And not 48 hours later, it caught something wild. Brittany, pacing in the front entryway, ranting on speakerphone. No, like, I don't care if it's his name on the deed. Manifestation doesn't work on paperwork. It works on energy, and this house is already mine. Pause. He's too passive. He won't fight. Worst case, we cry and say we feel unsafe. Click. I watched the clip 4 times. I saved it to 4 different places, uploaded it to a secure drive, forwarded it to my lawyer. And I smiled. Because finally, the story was shifting. No longer the mule, no longer the doormat. Now, I was the storm coming. And I wasn't coming with fists. I was coming with facts, with footage, with receipts. But just as I started to move toward eviction, Jake dropped a bombshell. He wasn't just thinking about living here permanently. He was thinking about proposing. To Brittany. And the ring? He planned to finance it with a home equity loan from my house. That's when I realized this wasn't just a hijacking. It was a full-blown heist, a home equity loan. Let that sink in. Jake, the same guy who still owed me $700 from a car repair 5 years ago, wanted to take out a loan against my house, to buy a ring for a woman who'd turned my living room into a yoga studio and claimed my space as her divine nest. And the worst part, he said it like it was normal, like it was a given, like he was entitled. "You've got a good job, man," Jake said casually one afternoon, feet propped on my coffee table. "You wouldn't even miss it, and I'd pay it back." I didn't respond. I just stared at him. He grinned. "It's not like I'm asking you to co-sign. Technically, it'd be your loan." I had to leave the room. Because if I stayed, I wasn't sure if I'd laugh, scream, or punch a hole through the drywall I'd painted myself. That night, I sat in my garage, door cracked just enough to let the desert breeze in. The air smelled like dust and pavement and heat lightning. I had one light on above the workbench, casting shadows across the walls. And I made a list. It was a 4-step plan. Nothing flashy, no explosions, no screaming matches, just cold, calculated moves. The kind of moves no one expects from the nice guy. Step 1, legally solidify my position. I called my lawyer and asked him to draft a formal eviction notice. Arizona law gives you power if you know how to use it. I wasn't a landlord by trade, but I was a homeowner with an unlawful tenant. Jake and Brittany weren't on the deed. They weren't on a formal lease. They hadn't paid rent in over a month. My lawyer said, "You have every legal right to remove them, but you need to serve notice properly. Do not skip steps." So we did it by the book. 72 hours to vacate, delivered in writing, emailed, printed, and per my lawyer's suggestion, posted on their bedroom door. Tony helped me tape it. We didn't say a word. Step 2, control the narrative. Brittany freaked out first, stormed into the kitchen barefoot, robe flapping, mascara smudged. "What the hell is this, Nick?" She waved the paper like it was a traffic ticket. "It's notice," I said calmly. "You have 3 days to leave SOAS." "You can't do this. I run a business here. I have clients." "You're not a tenant. You're a squatter." Jake came in behind her, looking dazed. "You're seriously kicking us out?" he asked. "No, I'm reclaiming my house." They argued, cried, called my parents. My mom left 4 voicemails, each one guiltier than the last. But I didn't waver, because this wasn't personal anymore. It was surgical. Step 3, starve them out. I shut off their access to the thermostat, reprogrammed the smart locks, moved their mail to a box on the porch. When Brittany tried to host a live stream the next morning, I'd already throttled the guest Wi-Fi. She stomped out of the room mid-manifestation. I unplugged their air fryer and boxed up the healing crystals from the living room altar, stacking them neatly in a bin marked, "Brittany, my SC." Jake tried to argue. I offered to call the cops and file a trespassing report. They backed down. Each time, a little more deflated. Step 4, the final move. On the 3rd night, with the eviction clock almost up, Tony and I prepped the garage. We brought out folding chairs, a cooler, and my Bluetooth speaker. Set up just outside the house, in full view of the ring cam. Then we waited. At 10:47 p.m., Jake walked out with 2 duffel bags. No eye contact. Brittany followed, dragging a pink suitcase, muttering about spiritual theft and karmic retribution. They got in Brittany's car and peeled out of the driveway like 2 kids who just got grounded. Tony raised his beer. "To freedom," he said. I didn't toast. I just stood there, watching the taillights disappear down the street. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. But this story doesn't end with them driving away. Because 48 hours later, my mom showed up at my house unannounced. She didn't knock. She used the old garage code I forgot to reset. Walked in like nothing happened, carrying a Tupperware of her famous banana bread. "You went too far, Nick," she said softly. I stared at her. "You knew they were trying to take out a loan against my house." She set the container down, carefully. They're young. They're still figuring things out. So was I, when I built all this, alone, and no one made excuses for me. She looked away. And then, like it cost her everything, she said, "You didn't have to be so cold." And that was the final crack. Because all my life, I'd been taught that kindness meant self-sacrifice. That love meant giving even when it emptied you. That saying no was selfish. But in that moment, I saw it for what it really was. A trap. So I changed the garage code, changed the locks, and changed the narrative. From the reliable one to the man who built his own peace and kept it. But just when I thought it was over, Brittany sent me a cease and desist letter, claiming I'd stolen intellectual property from her brand by boxing up her crystals. When the letter arrived, it came in a pale lavender envelope sealed with a sticker that said "Vibrate Higher." I almost laughed, until I opened it. A cease and desist. Typed in Comic Sans, claiming I had intentionally disrupted a woman-owned spiritual business by tampering with proprietary altars and sacred tools, and that my energy retaliation had caused emotional distress, resulting in a temporary blockage of abundance flow. Brittany was threatening to sue me over her crystals. I took the letter straight to my lawyer. He read it once, raised an eyebrow, then read it again. Is this real?
Oh, it's real, I said, but I doubt it's legal.
He nodded. Nothing in here holds any water. She can't sue you for boxing up her stuff. She's not a tenant, and crystals aren't protected intellectual property. Then he paused. But it is an escalation. That word stuck with me. Escalation. Because this wasn't just revenge anymore. It wasn't even about money. It was about control. Brittany was trying to rewrite the story, frame herself as the victim, paint me as the aggressor. And, unfortunately, the world often listens to the one who screams the loudest. I didn't respond to her letter. My lawyer drafted a one-sentence reply and sent it through official channels. Your claims are unfounded and unsupported by any contractual agreement or statute. We heard nothing back. But then came the reviews. On Yelp, on Google, even on Nextdoor. Under a dozen different usernames, Brittany and her little healing tribe bombed my name with one-star reviews. Nick G. is emotionally abusive, hostile energy, unsafe for women. Avoid doing business with anyone associated with this man. I didn't run a business, but it didn't matter. My name, my reputation was under attack. And here's the thing about being a private person: when your peace is targeted, you feel it in your bones. I'd built my whole life around quiet, predictability, control. Suddenly, I was the subject of neighborhood gossip. Strangers were side-eyeing me at the grocery store. The cashier at Circle K wouldn't make eye contact. Even my mom texted, "Have you seen what Brittany posted on Instagram? I really think you should apologize." I almost threw my phone. But instead of reacting, I documented. I took screenshots, tracked usernames, cross-referenced dates and IPs. Tony helped me dig. He found that 4 of the burner accounts had been made within 15 minutes of each other on Brittany's public Wi-Fi, the same Wi-Fi she used during her TikTok streams from my house. We gathered it all, built a file. And just when I was about to send it to my lawyer, something shifted. A message came through LinkedIn from a name I didn't recognize. "Hey Nick, this might be random, but I used to date Brittany. Saw what's going down. Just want to say watch your back. She's done this before. Sorry." I replied. We ended up talking on the phone for 45 minutes. Turns out I wasn't the first. Not even close. Brittany had a pattern move in with stable guys, embed herself in their lives, twist the narrative, then bail after a dramatic breakup, always claiming victimhood, emotional abuse, theft, vibration sabotage. She never worked a full-time job. She never stayed more than 6 months. And somehow, she always walked away with sympathy, followers, and free furniture. The guy on the phone told me she once filed a fake police report over a missing candle. That's when my blood ran cold. Because Brittany wasn't just manipulative. She was dangerous. And I had let her live in my house. I had fed her, protected her, defended her to my own mother. And now she was trying to destroy my name. So I made one last call. To a woman named Cheryl. She's a local investigative podcaster, specializes in scams, spiritual grifters, online cults. I'd listened to her stuff for years. One of her episodes even helped a friend of mine recover from a fake MLM scheme. I sent her everything. The footage, the screenshots, the audio from my Ring cam, even the lavender envelope with the Comic Sans threat. She replied within 30 minutes. This is a full episode. A week later, the episode aired crystal clear inside the glittery grift of Brittany Luna. It was brutal. Told from the voices of multiple exes, former roommates, clients who'd been ghosted after $1,000 chakra packages. And right there, smack in the middle, me. She included audio clips, masked names, blurred faces, But the timeline was clear, the manipulation unmistakable.
And Brittany.
She went silent. No live streams, no manifesting, no rose quartz moon circles. She even deleted her Instagram for a while. And just when I thought the dust had finally settled, Jake called me.
At first, I thought it'd be more drama.
But his voice was different. Tired, flat. She left me. Man, he said, just disappeared. Took her stuff, blocked me, said I was low vibe. I didn't say anything. He kept going. I didn't know about the podcast, or the burner accounts, or that loan thing. I didn't know she used your address for her business either. He paused. I'm sorry. I waited for anger, for guilt, for that old urge to fix things. But all I felt was done. Not out of spite, just clarity. So I told him, take care of yourself, Jake. And I hung up. Because the truth is, not everyone who says they love you deserves access to your life. And sometimes, peace is the most expensive thing you ever buy. But it's worth every cent. After everything, after the eviction, the smear campaign, the podcast expose, I expected relief to come like thunder. Loud, triumphant, undeniable. But peace came quietly. Like a draft slipping through a crack in the door, barely noticeable at first, until you realize the air smells different, lighter. I didn't throw a party. I didn't post on social media. I just returned to living. And let me tell you, silence never sounded so good. The house felt like mine again. I put my diploma back up, rearranged my books by author, not vibration color. I bought new kitchen towels, nothing fancy, just ones that didn't say live, laugh, love. Even the air felt different. The living room no longer smelled like incense and melted soy wax. My bathroom was free of essential oil residue. And the garage, my sanctuary, unbothered, untouched. I didn't realize how much space they'd taken up physically, emotionally, until they were gone. Like removing a tumor you didn't even know was growing. Tony came by one afternoon with a six-pack and a big grin. So, you finally exorcised the crystal demon. I laughed. Took me long enough. We sat on the back patio, watching the sun drop behind the cactus line. The Arizona sky turned that shade of orange that never quite shows up in photos. Tony nudged my shoulder. You good? It took me a second to answer. Yeah, I said, but I've been thinking a lot. About what? About how long I let them make me small. Because here's the truth. No one tells you. It's not always the screamers, the punchers, the obvious villains who hurt you most. Sometimes, it's the people who smile while they rearrange your life, who say blessings while they strip you of boundaries, who weaponize kindness, guilt, and family to make sure you never say no. And if you're not careful, you start to believe them. I didn't want to be bitter. That's never who I was. But I did want to be better. So I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I was done carrying things alone. Week by week, I unpacked the patterns. Why I always played the responsible one. Why I let people stay longer than they should. Why I equated silence with peace and sacrifice with love. Turns out, I wasn't just healing from Jake and Brittany. I was healing from years of being the fallback plan. And here's something wild my mom started changing too. At first, she kept her distance, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of confusion. But one day, she called not to lecture, not to guilt trip. Just to talk. She asked how I was doing. Asked about therapy. Admitted, softly, I think I failed you in some ways. I didn't know what to say, so I said, I'm not angry anymore. She cried. And we started, tentatively, to rebuild. Not as mother and golden child, but as two adults trying to unlearn generations of misplaced expectations. As for Jake, he moved in with a friend, got a job delivering for UPS. He texted me once, no drama, no begging. Just trying to do better. Hope you're good. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because sometimes silence is grace. And because I'd finally learned, forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. Months passed. Fall came. I started running again every morning before sunrise. Just me and the pavement and the desert air. No crystals, no chants, just breath and rhythm and sweat. The house was quiet, steady, but not empty. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Just canvases in the garage, thick with color, texture, motion. It wasn't for social media, not for likes or affirmation. Just for me. And then because life has a sense of humor, a letter arrived. Another lavender envelope. No glitter this time, no Comic Sans. Just a handwritten note. From Brittany. Nick, I've been doing a lot of healing. I see now that I projected my trauma onto you. I'm sorry for any pain I caused. Wishing you love, abundance, and peace. I stared at it for a long time. It didn't make me angry, but it didn't move me either. Because healing isn't about the apology. It's about what you do after. I never replied. Instead, I pinned the note to my bulletin board, right next to a small wooden sign I bought at a flea market. Burnt lettering, rough edges. It reads, No is a complete sentence. And you know what? It is. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't yelling, or crying, or fighting. Sometimes it's simply saying, this is my boundary, and I will not move. The weirdest part of healing. It doesn't feel like fireworks. It's not some dramatic movie moment where you throw open the windows, scream into the sunrise, and suddenly feel free. It's quieter than that. It feels like choosing not to answer a text. It feels like walking past a mirror and not flinching. It feels like making your morning coffee and realizing, for the first time in a long time, you don't feel dread. You just feel normal. I won't pretend I'm some enlightened hero. I'm still working through things. Sometimes I overthink every word I say to my mom. Sometimes I still wake up tense, half expecting a passive-aggressive post-it from Brittany about toxic masculine dish soap. But the truth is, life now feels honest. And in this world, that's rare. I never posted about any of this. No long Facebook rant, no Reddit revenge story. But Cheryl the podcaster invited me to do a follow-up segment. She called it the Fallout Files. Just me, her, and a mic. No script. I was nervous. But when I started talking, the words came out like water bursting through a dam. Not angry, not petty. Just real. I talked about boundaries, about guilt, about how hard it is to say no when you're raised to say yes. About how being the reliable one often means carrying everyone else's baggage, and how it quietly crushes your own dreams. And when the episode dropped, the response was overwhelming. DMs, emails, even handwritten letters. People from all over the country, men and women, telling me their own stories. One guy said his sister had been living in his basement for 2 years, refusing to work, and gaslighting him for asking her to help with groceries. A woman wrote, "My daughter tells me I'm cold for setting rules with her boyfriend. I thought I was the problem, but maybe I'm not." People related. Because this wasn't just about crystals, or family, or home equity scams. This was about invisible labor. About emotional blackmail hiding behind phrases like "we're family," and "you're so strong." And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is stop carrying people. One message hit me hardest. It was from a high school teacher in Texas. She wrote, "Your story saved me. I was days away from signing over power of attorney to my sister, who's never worked a day in her life. I felt guilty for having my life together, but now I see that guilt was her tool, not my truth." That message. I printed it, taped it next to the wooden sign in my garage. The one that still reads no is a complete sentence. The funny thing is, I used to think revenge would feel louder. Like smashing something, exposing someone, getting even. But real revenge is watching someone realize they have no more access to you. That their tricks don't work. That you've moved on, and they're still playing games you no longer care about. That's not bitterness. That's liberation. One day, about 6 months after it all ended, I saw Brittany at Trader Joe's. She was wearing a floppy hat and enormous sunglasses indoors, classic disguise mode. She looked up, saw me, and for half a second, I braced for drama. But all she did was turn and walk away. Fast. Like I was the threat now. Like my peace was dangerous. And maybe, in a way, it was. Jake and I don't talk much. He texts on holidays. I reply politely. No bad blood, but also no open doors. He's not in therapy, still drifts job to job. But that's not my responsibility anymore. And that's the lesson I leave with you. You can love someone, you can forgive someone, and still never let them back into your house. Not out of hate, out of wisdom. So if you're watching this, and you're the Nick in your family, if you're the dependable one, the peacemaker, the fixer, let this be your sign. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to want peace that isn't interrupted by other people's chaos. Because being generous is beautiful, but being used is not noble. It's just exhausting. And if you're afraid that people will hate you for standing up for yourself, let them. Let the ones who only loved you when you were useful leave. Because the ones who love you, the real you, the free you will stay. They'll celebrate the new chapter with you. They'll sit on your back patio under a soft Arizona sunset, clinking beers, laughing at the storm you survived. And they'll never ask you to shrink again. Thanks for watching my story. If this resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit like, drop a comment, share your own experience below. I read every single one. And if you're still figuring it out, you're not alone. Take your time. Take your power back. I'll be here. Peace. Story 2. My name is Jack Peterson, and I'm 30 years old. If you think this is just another story about family, love, and betrayal, well, you're right. But let me tell you, this family isn't always about love. Sometimes it's about manipulation. Sometimes it's about using you until you've got nothing left to give and then discarding you like trash. This is my story, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate. You've given everything for someone you love, sacrificed your time, money, and your own well-being, only to be thrown aside when they've gotten what they needed. You've been treated like a tool, a stepping stone. Well, I decided to change that, and trust me, you won't believe what I did to make them feel the way they made me feel. But before I get into that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And hey, if you've ever been disrespected or taken for granted, leave a comment below. Let's get the conversation started. All right, now let me take you back to the day that changed everything. I grew up in a small neighborhood in Boston. Nothing fancy, just your typical middle-class American family, struggling to make ends meet, but always putting on a good front. My parents worked hard, but there was always this quiet tension in our house. Things were tight financially, emotionally, even mentally, but for me, there was always my sister, Elena. She was my little sister, the baby of the family, the one who always got a little more attention than me. I didn't mind. I loved her. But as I got older, I noticed something. She got away with things I never could. She'd ask for a new phone, a new laptop, and Mom and Dad would just hand it over. For me, I had to work for every single penny. I had this job in tech, a solid gig, not a billionaire's paycheck, but enough for me to live comfortably. And that's when I noticed the change. I started helping Elena more. She asked me for money, and I gave it. She'd ask me to cover something: her rent, her student loans, even things like her wedding, and I'd step up. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good brother. But something about the whole situation started to feel off. Elena didn't seem to appreciate it. In fact, the more I gave, the more she expected. It wasn't just her asking for financial help anymore. It was her demanding it, as if it were her right to get what she wanted from me. And then came the wedding. The wedding plan. Elena was getting married to Dylan. They'd been together for 4 years. But to be honest, I wasn't convinced about their relationship. Dylan was a great guy, nothing wrong with him. But Elena, she wasn't exactly the ideal partner. She could be selfish, irresponsible, and a bit too spoiled for my taste. But still, I wanted to be the good brother. I wanted to support her, to help make her wedding day special. So, when she started stressing out about the cost of everything: the venue, the catering, I decided to step up. "I'll cover the whole catering bill," I told her. It was $12,000, and I'd saved enough over the past year to cover it. No big deal. I was doing well, after all. But the moment those words left my mouth, I felt this strange tension in the air. Elena smiled. Of course, she was grateful, or at least, I thought she was. Mom and Dad were thrilled too. They couldn't stop talking about how generous I was, how responsible I was. But inside, I started to feel a little uneasy. I was doing all this for her, for them, and yet something told me I wasn't going to get anything back in return. Still, I pushed that feeling aside. It was family, right? Family always comes first. So, I worked extra hours, even sold my old gaming setup, just to make sure I could help her have the wedding she wanted. The day of the wedding arrived. I was excited. Elena was my little sister, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. But as soon as I stepped into the venue, things felt off. They handed me my badge at the check-in desk, and I thought it was just a mistake at first. It was a plain white badge, with the words "Limited Access Guest" printed on it in black ink. I looked at the woman behind the desk. She didn't even glance up. "That's your badge," she said flatly. "You're supposed to eat with the catering staff." I froze. "Wait, what? I paid for this wedding?" I muttered. Adam, my best friend, was right behind me. He saw the badge and just stared. "Yo, what the hell is this?" he asked, holding it up. "This guy literally paid for your food tonight, and you're telling him he's not good enough to sit with everyone else." The woman shrugged. "I'm just following instructions," she said, looking back at her clipboard. I felt this sinking feeling in my stomach. I didn't know what to do. I thought it was some kind of mistake, but then my mom appeared, almost as if she had been waiting for the moment. She whispered in my ear, "That means you eat in the kitchen with the catering staff." I was stunned. I had just paid for everything: the food, the venue, and now I was being treated like staff at my own sister's wedding. This wasn't happening. Adam looked at me, his face twisted in disbelief. "Are you really going to let them do this to you?" I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel. All I could think about was how much I had given, and how little I had received in return. As I walked into the main hall, hoping that somehow this was all a mistake, I saw my sister, Elena, standing with Dylan, smiling, laughing, and I realized I wasn't even a part of this day. So, there I was standing at the check-in desk, holding this pathetic vendor access badge, feeling like a ghost at my own sister's wedding. I looked at my best friend, Adam. He was staring at me like I'd just told him the sky was green.
"Dude, seriously, this is insane," Adam muttered, still looking at the badge in disbelief. He wasn't wrong. I couldn't believe it either. But when I turned around to face my family, things took a turn I wasn't expecting.
I didn't expect a lot of drama today. I was just the guy paying for everything, the one doing the right thing. I figured they'd thank me, treat me with respect. But no, none of that. My mom appeared out of nowhere, as if she had been waiting to deliver the final blow. She leaned in close, whispering in my ear, "That means you eat in the kitchen with the catering staff." She said it like she was talking about the weather, casual, almost indifferent. no emotion, just cold, plain facts. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't welcome at this wedding. At all. Adam looked at me, eyes wide. What? She did not just say that. He was just as confused and angry as I was. Man, I'm sorry, but this is next level messed up. He was trying to make light of it, but I could feel his frustration building. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I was mad at him for being upset or mad at myself for not seeing this coming. I took a deep breath, trying to hold it together. It's fine. I'll figure it out. I walked into the reception hall, hoping against hope that this was just some huge mistake. Maybe it was just a mix-up. Maybe there'd be a seat for me at one of the family tables. But no, the truth hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw the seating chart. I walked around, scanning the names, looking for my own. Nothing. No name at all. The catering staff was already setting up the tables. Fancy centerpieces, silverware gleaming in the light, plates being arranged with care, but my name nowhere to be found. I started to feel that sinking feeling in my chest, like I was trapped. It wasn't just the seating chart. It wasn't just the fact that they gave me a vendor access badge and sent me off to the back. It was the fact that I had been erased. In the one place I thought I could expect to be valued, I was treated like an invisible piece of furniture there. But not really there. Adam, still at my side, could see the look on my face. He was trying to lighten the mood. But the truth was, nothing was funny anymore. You got the catering badge, he said, shaking his head, and they made you eat with the staff. What kind of family does that to their own? I didn't answer him right away. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? I didn't have the words to explain the hurt I was feeling. That feeling of betrayal was suffocating me. The people I had worked so hard to help, the people I thought I could count on, were just using me. And what did they give me in return? A seat in the kitchen. I kept walking through the hall, hoping something would change. Maybe I had missed something. Maybe someone would come to their senses. But no. As I was circling the room, trying to wrap my head around this whole mess, I could hear Elena's voice. She was standing at the front, giving a speech. You know the one, the thank you for coming speech, where the bride gets to say how happy she is, how much she loves everyone who's been a part of her special day. But not once did she even glance my way. Not once did she acknowledge me, the guy who had paid for all this, the guy who had worked for months to make sure her wedding was perfect. It felt like a slap in the face. Honestly, I could hear her voice echoing through the speakers. I'm so glad everyone's here. It means so much to have the people we love the most celebrating with us today. I stood there, with the envelope containing a $6,000 check for their honeymoon still in my hand, completely ignored. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just being treated like an outsider. I was being treated like a wallet. That's all I was to them. Just a source of money. Adam looked at me, his face filled with disbelief. Are you seriously going to let her say that? After everything you've done? I didn't know how to respond. What was I supposed to say? How could I explain the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me? Betrayal, anger, confusion. Was I wrong for expecting something more from my family? Something better, a little respect. But it wasn't just the seating arrangement, or the badge. It was the fact that they wanted me there, but not as family. They wanted me there because I paid for everything. The catering, the venue, the flowers, and once that was done, I was discarded, forgotten. At that moment, I felt something inside me shift. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. The anger, the hurt, it was all building up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them all what I really felt. But instead, I just kept walking, heading toward the back where the catering staff was set up. The worst part was when the catering manager approached me. Are you the one who paid for this? He asked. I nodded, still in shock. He handed me a form and said, we just need you to sign off on some final details. We'll need your approval before we can finalize everything. Right then, Adam stepped in, blocking the catering manager. What the hell is this? He demanded, standing in front of me. You're treating my best friend like staff at his own sister's wedding. The manager looked around awkwardly, unsure of what to say. But I didn't need him to say anything. I didn't need any more words. I didn't need the apologies or the explanations. I just needed to get out of there. But before I could walk away, I did something I never thought I would do. I took that envelope, the one with the $6, $1,000 check inside, and walked straight to the gift table. And I opened it. I took the check out. And in front of everyone, I said loud enough for the entire room to hear, "Actually, I think you won't need this anymore. Yet. Guys, stay tuned. You're not going to believe what happened after that. Everything went downhill from there. But did I regret it? You'll have to wait for part 3 to find out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Things are about to get really real. I hadn't even made it 10 feet from the gift table before pandemonium erupted behind me. The moment those words left my mouth, "I think you won't need this anymore," the entire room froze. Chairs scraped across the floor like nails on a chalkboard. Elena's voice cracked in mid-speech as she noticed the envelope in my hand, now empty of the check. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I saw the shock register in her face first, then panic. "Jack, come back!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the hall. The officiant's microphone squealed in protest. Laughter died, and all 8 guests turned to watch the scene unfold. Adam slipped his hand into mine. "Let's go," he whispered, sensing I was about to bolt, and I did. I navigated through the messy tangle of white tablecloths and overturned champagne flutes, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged animal. I could hear people yelling my parents, frantic, Dylan, confused, even some distant cousin calling, "Jack, please." I didn't stop. I didn't look back. The heavy wooden door swung open, and sunlight blasted my eyes like a flashbulb. I stumbled onto the patio, gasped for fresh air, and didn't slow my pace until I reached the parking lot, where Adam was waiting beside the rental sedan. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. "You good?" he asked. I nodded, swallowing the bitter taste of adrenaline and betrayal. We sped away, tires squealing against the asphalt. Neither of us spoke. The only sound was the engine's roar and my ragged breathing. My throat felt raw, but words wouldn't come. I stared ahead, hands clenched on the wheel, replaying every memory of that badge, every whispered humiliation, every step that led me to this moment. The morning after. I didn't sleep. My apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant siren that reminded me I was still in Boston. At 6:30, my phone buzzed. "Mom, can we talk? Please don't make this a thing. Dad, son, let's not ruin the weekend. Elena, Jack, I'm so sorry. Come home." Not one apology. Every message dripping with corporate speak and guilt by proxy. None admitting they'd treated me like hired help. None acknowledging that I'd given them everything and was still invisible to them. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the empty envelope on my nightstand, the one that once held $6,000. Now, it was just a flimsy piece of paper and a symbol of everything they'd denied me. I crumpled it, and it cracked like brittle glass in my hand. Adam arrived at 9 with coffee and bagels. "You look like hell," he said, dropping a box on my kitchen table. He poured me a cup. Text messages from hell. I handed him the phone. He read them, eyebrows climbing higher and higher. "They can't even own up to it," he said, disgusted. "They treated you like the help, then expect you to forgive and forget." I shrugged and took a bite of a bagel. Everything flavor. Because why not? The first crunch felt almost cleansing. "I don't know what I'm doing next," I admitted, "but I know I'm not going back there." Adam nodded, eyes sharpening. "Good, because they owe you more than an apology. They owe you respect." Internal turmoil, sitting there. I felt that familiar ache in my chest. Betrayal mixed with anger and a late-night dose of regret. My body was still on high alert from yesterday's adrenaline rush. Every muscle ached as though I'd run a marathon. I closed my eyes and could still hear the soft click of those plastic badges, the low murmur of vendor access only, the hush that fell over the crowd when I walked away. Why had I never seen it? I'd sold parts of myself to help them afford this day, my free time, my peace of mind, my savings. Yet they'd planned every detail: how I'd be humiliated, how I'd stand in the shadows, how they'd profit off my generosity without a shred of gratitude. In that moment, a thought flickered through. They decided what I was worth before the ceremony even began. That cruelty rooted itself in me, knotting tight around my heart, and I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about self-worth, about being treated as a human being, not a walking ATM. Second twist: paperwork in the kitchen. Just when I thought the worst was over, I got another twist. As I was about to sink further into my couch, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was from the catering manager. Catering manager Jack, thanks for covering the bill seriously, but we need your signature on the final paperwork. Can you come back to the kitchen? I stared at the text in disbelief. They wanted me to return to play employee. Oi! My fists tightened around the phone. For a split second, I considered doing it sign, finish it, and be done. Then Adam leaned over my shoulder. No way. Man, his voice was low but firm. You don't go back there. I knew he was right. If I returned, I'd be legitimizing their stunt. I set my jaw. Tell him I quit, I muttered, and typed a reply. I'm no longer involved. Please forward the signed contract to me. I will review it. The keyboard clicked louder than any applause had in that hall. Adam's strategy. Adam jumped up, pacing the living room like a caged lion. We need a plan, he said, eyes blazing. They can't just get away with this. They humiliated you in front of everybody. They need to face consequences. I nodded. The idea settled in my mind with a solid weight. Consequences. It sounded good. It felt right. It tasted like something I hadn't felt in years. Justice. He pulled out his phone. First step, get them off the hook financially. If we can dispute that catering charge, they'll have to pay, and that will hit them where it hurts. A flicker of hope ignited in me. A legal wrinkle, a 24-hour satisfaction guarantee clause. If I invoked it, they'd be on the hook for 12 grand. My pulse quickened. This could work. But before we dashed off to pull that lever, another thought gnawed at me. What about letting them squirm? If I just cut the check and walked away, they'd scramble. But would they feel why they were scrambling? Adam looked at me. We do this right. We make them see the cost of their disrespect. He pointed at me. You deserve that much. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. The sun was climbing, cutting bright lines through the blinds. Everything was changing now: my anger, my resolve, my next move. Would I really cancel the payment and watch them scramble? Could I handle their fallout? I took a deep breath. The envelope on the table seemed to mock me, but also beckoned me forward. This was my moment. But did I have the guts to pull the trigger? I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the empty envelope from Elena's wedding. Its creases felt like every jab of humiliation I'd endured. In the harsh morning light, I could still taste the stale champagne and hear the whispers vendor access only. My body trembled, not from anger, but from the sheer adrenaline of having walked away. I'd hit my breaking point. Now, it was time to act. Adam slid into the seat across from me, coffee cup in hand. You ready? He asked, voice low but steady. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah, let's do this. The turning point. Remember that 24-hour satisfaction guarantee clause in the catering contract? I'd signed it without reading because I never thought I'd need it. But yesterday, when my eyes flicked to that tiny paragraph buried on page 4, everything changed. It was my legal out, my lever of power. I leaned forward. They served the food fine, but the service part did not meet my expectations. Adam raised an eyebrow. That's all you need. You call them, invoke the clause, and boom, they're on the hook for 12 grand. My heart hammered. The plan felt audacious. Was it wrong to weaponize a clause we'd both ignored? Maybe, but they'd weaponized me first, so I'd fight back. High-stakes phone call. I dialed the number for Strand & Moore Catering. A cheery voice answered. Good morning. Strand & Moore. This is Beth. How can I help you? I swallowed. Hi, Beth? This is Jack Peterson. I'm calling regarding yesterday's event at the Harborview Ballroom. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Oh, yes, Mr. Peterson. We hope everything was satisfactory. I pressed on. Actually, I'm invoking the 24-hour satisfaction guarantee in our contract. I'd like to cancel the final payment for the catering services. A pause. On the other end, I could almost hear her inhale. Mr. Peterson, let me check. Can you hold for a moment? My pulse raced. I set the phone down and drummed my fingers on the counter. Adam watched me. Silent support. Seconds later, Beth returned. Sir, I'm seeing the clause here. You are within the 24-hour window. We can't process the final payment. Your credit card won't be charged. I closed my eyes, fighting a mixture of triumph and guilt. Thank you. Beth, please send me a confirmation email. As I hung up, the reality hit me. I just canceled $12,000 worth of catering fees. Internal shock and release. My chest felt tight, then suddenly looser. Every breath afterward tasted like victory, but then a second wave crashed over me, guilt. I'd weaponized a legal loophole against my own family, people I once thought would never hurt me. Despite that, the memory of Elena's whispered laughter as I ate with staff, her mother's indifferent shrug, ignited a righteous fire. Adam clapped a hand on my shoulder. Well, you did it. They're gonna freak out. I managed a shaky grin. Yeah, they're gonna scramble. The family fallout begins. No sooner had I settled back into my chair than my phone buzzed. It was my dad. Dad, Jack, the catering company just called. They said you canceled the payment? What's going on? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I had a choice: lie or tell the truth. Before I could decide, another message from Mom came through. Mom, please call us. This is serious. The text came fast, Elena. Dylan, even my grandmother, none with apologies, all with panic. Their fear was almost satisfying, but I reminded myself this wasn't about cruelty, it was about fairness. For once, they had to feel the cost of their cruelty. Symbolic envelope. I looked at that envelope again, the flimsy piece of paper that had once held $6,000. It was now a powerful symbol not just of betrayal, but of my agency. I picked it up, smoothed its wrinkles, and placed it back on the table. It was my keepsake trophy, a reminder that I'd stood up for myself. Adam's next move. Adam wasn't done. He'd already texted his contacts in event planning law. We need to make sure they can't challenge the cancellation, he said. And then we need coverage, maybe post on social media about how they've breached their contract at a major wedding. His eyes gleamed at the thought of public accountability. I paused. A public post would expose them, but also expose me. My pride clashed with my need for justice. Was I ready to air my family's dirty laundry to the world? Adam leaned forward. You paid for everything. You got nothing but humiliation. They deserve this exposure. I nodded slowly. Let's do it, but we do it carefully. My voice regained strength. I felt the steady hum of determination. Third-party reaction. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was Dylan. Jack, he said, voice shaky. I just found out about the catering charge. Elena is freaking out. She didn't think you'd actually do it. I bit my lip. This was the moment to decide: soften the blow or let it land fully. Dylan hesitated, then added, she's saying it was a misunderstanding. Your parents said you'd be more comfortable behind the scenes. I closed my eyes, recalling every humiliating moment. Dylan, if you're comfortable with that, then I don't know what to say. He sighed. I'm sorry. Man, I really didn't know. Okay, I said. Just think about what you're supporting. Then I hung up. The next text came from Beth at Strand and Moore. Beth, Mr. Peterson, per your cancellation, we've refunded the entire $12,000 to your card. Our accounting department will reach out if anything else is needed. I stared at the message. $12,000 back in my account. A $12,000 reminder of what they'd taken from me and what I'd taken back. My phone buzzed again, a group text from my parents, saying they'd like to meet and clear this up, but I'd already cleared up enough. I looked at Adam, ready for the next step. He grinned, eyes alight. Let's show them what happens when you cross the line. I opened my laptop and stared at the blank social media post box, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The cursor blinked at me like a dare. $12,000, 24 hours. A single click could turn the tables on the people who'd spent a lifetime taking me for granted. Adam hovered beside me, sipping his coffee. "You ready?" he asked. His reflection stared back at me from the screen. Two guys who'd been pushed into a corner, now planning their comeback. I took a deep breath and began to type. Yesterday, I discovered I was wearing a vendor access only badge at my own sister's wedding, the one I paid for in full. I was made to eat with the catering staff while everyone else sat inside. I let it go until I learned they'd planned it. I canceled the $12,000 catering payment. Maybe now they'll respect that family isn't free labor. I attached a photo of the badge, plain white plastic with cold, black text, and the crumpled envelope I'd held as my gift. The image said more than words ever could: betrayal and power, plastic and paper. I hit post. Within seconds, reactions poured in. Notifications beeped like popcorn popping. Comments ranged from shock, "They did what?" to outrage, "That's disgusting," to empathy, "I would have done the same thing." Strangers were sharing their own stories of family betrayal, turning my wound into a collective scar. But the real mini twist came minutes later, when my phone pinged. "Elena, private message. Jack, delete this now or I will sue you." She didn't even bother with apologies, only threats. That's when I realized how badly I'd hit a nerve. I texted her back, "Sue me for telling the truth." My thumb trembled as I hit send. Elena's reply came almost instantly. "Elena, you're ruining my life. My wedding photos, my reputation, everything is going down because of you." Her panic was palpable even through text, and just like that, the tables had turned. The girl who once commanded every camera at her wedding was now invisible to the world. She was the villain. Adam leaned closer. "This is gold. Keep it up. Next." I forwarded the social post to a private family group chat, one I'd been quietly observing. The messages spilled out like spilled coffee. "Mom, Jack, delete this. Now. Dad, you're breaking up our family. Cousin Laura, you just cost me a job. People are gossiping." And then, a bomb. "Uncle Steve, Elena, why did you plan this? We all agreed to keep Jack in the dark. Now look at him." Silence, then a flurry. "Elena, Steve, you traitor dad. Who leaked this?" The betrayal within betrayal. Even my uncle felt guilty enough to confess. The family fractures splintered wider. While the family fought in cyberspace, Adam had been on the phone with a lawyer friend. Now, he handed me a PDF of legal guidance: how to protect myself from defamation claims, how to document evidence, how to leverage public support if they tried to sue. I pinched the edges of the badge and envelope photos, saving them into a folder labeled Evidence, the digital dumping ground of all the proof I'd amassed: texts, photos, contract clauses, private messages, each file a hammer blow against their denials. Just then, my phone buzzed with another text. It was from Zach, the cousin who'd exposed the planning texts. "Zach, I've got more receipts. Mom and Elena discussing hiding you behind the scenes. Want screenshots?" I smiled. The envelope on the table suddenly felt heavier, not a relic of humiliation, but a suitcase full of secrets. In our next call, Zach sent over a trove of photos, group chats, calendar invites, voice memos where my mom giggled about keeping Jack busy in the back. I forwarded the key screenshots to my lawyer friend. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, feeling that familiar zing of victory. Ready. The phone rang. It was Dylan. His voice was unsteady, shaky. "Jack, can we talk?" he said. "I just saw the screenshots. I'm so sorry. I didn't know." I felt a pang of something unexpected sympathy. Dylan had been as much a pawn as I'd been. "It's okay. I said, "but you need to decide where you stand." He hesitated. "I want to make this right." "Then help me," I said, in front of everyone. He agreed, but I could tell the real work had just begun. That evening, I received an email notification. It was my parents' lawyer. The subject line read, "Potential defamation. Claim cease and desist." I opened it with a mix of dread and exhilaration. Their legal team was threatening action unless I removed every social post and apologized publicly. I stared at the screen. My finger hovered over the reply. Remove the posts. Apologize. The words felt like betrayal all over again. I looked at Adam. He stood behind me, arms crossed, eyes fierce. "Do you fold?" he said, "or do you finish what you started?" I took a steadying breath, heart pounding. The next move would define everything. And that's when I realized I'd crossed a line, and there was no turning back. The next morning, I woke to a storm of missed calls and unread messages. My phone screen looked like a slot machine. Mom, Dad, Elena, Dylan, each name blinking red. None had a single word of apology or concern for how I'd felt. It was all about them. "How could you do this? You're destroying our family. We want you to take it down now." I rolled out of bed and cradled my phone like it was a grenade. The room spun with every buzz. My chest tightened again this time, not from adrenaline, but from a strange mixture of relief and lingering guilt. I reminded myself they started it. They left me no choice. Family fallout first. My mom, her voicemail message was soft, almost pleading, but loaded with corporate jargon. "Jack, we thought you'd be more comfortable working behind the scenes. We never meant to hurt you. Please, let's talk." Her words dangled in silence. I could practically hear her marketing smile. My dad's message was different, authoritative, angry. "Son, this is unacceptable. We've always supported you, but you've made your bed. Now lie in it." There was a chilling finality in his tone, as if I'd ceased to be a son and become just another adversary. Elena texted next. "No, sorry. Just, I've lost friends. My reputation is ruined. You owe me an explanation, or I will pursue legal action." Her threats felt empty, desperate. The sister who once shared my childhood felt as far away as Florida from Boston. Ripples beyond family. The public post had spread beyond my little corner of social media. A distant cousin from California reached out privately. "Jack, I saw what happened. You shouldn't have to accept that treatment. That one message warmed me, proof that at least some part of my family recognized the injustice." Then came the real twist, a notice from Elena's in-laws. Dylan's parents sent a group email to our families, demanding clarity. They were caught in the crossfire and didn't appreciate it. Suddenly, our private feud had spilled over into in-law territory, the last place I'd ever expected my actions to go. Legal threats and internal resolve. Late morning, my lawyer friend called. "They've drafted a cease and desist." He said, "They claim defamation, emotional distress. They want your posts removed within 24 hours, or they'll file suit." My heart pounded again. The legal hammer hovered over me. Should I cave? Delete the posts? Apologize? The old Jack might have done that, tried to fix things, keep the peace, but the new Jack, scarred, awakened by betrayal, knew this was a trap. Apologizing now would mean admitting I was wrong, absolving them of the pain they'd caused. I took a deep breath, pressing my palm against the laptop. The digital envelope, the one I'd photographed, lay open on my desk like a challenge. It symbolized the choice: retreat and maintain some semblance of family harmony, or stand firm for my dignity. Unexpected ally. Just then, the phone buzzed again. It was Dylan. "Jack," he said, voice trembling, we can't go through with this. They're threatening divorce. They're saying this is all your fault." I felt a pang of sympathy for him. He'd been as blindsided as I. "Dylan, if you want to help, stand with me," I said, "not against me. Tell them you know the truth." He hesitated, then replied, "I will. I promise." His voice cracked as he spoke, and I realized he was my unexpected ally, not blood, but conviction. He understood we were fighting for honesty and respect, not petty revenge. Public statement. By afternoon, I drafted a calm, factual public statement. No anger, no insults, just the truth. I paid for the catering. I was given a vendor badge. I invoked the contract clause to cancel payment. I posted documentation. I stand by my actions. I posted it on my social feed and tagged a few close family members, including my parents and Elena. I watched the likes and supportive comments swell, turning my statement into a digital fortress. The powerful symbol. I glanced at the kitchen table where the crumpled badge still lay. Plastic and paper, two fragile materials that had turned my whole world upside down. Now, it looked like a war trophy, a reminder that sometimes the tools of your oppression can become your greatest weapons. Family's last resort. That evening, my doorbell rang. Standing on the stoop were my mom and dad, an unusual sight. They looked exhausted, eyes puffy. My mom's lipstick was smudged. My dad's suit was rumpled. For a moment, I felt a flicker of old compassion. My mom's voice cracked. "Please, Jack, we just want to make things right." I lifted the badge from the table. "This is what you gave me," I said softly. I had to fight back. They glanced at it, shame and regret mingling on their faces, but my dad straightened up, voice cold. "Delete the posts, apologize, and this can all end." I felt the weight of their ultimatum. My chest tightened, my heart thundered. Behind them, in the dim hallway light, I saw Elena's reflection in the window, eyes wide, tears streaming. I lifted the badge, feeling its rigid edges cut into my palm. Delete the posts, empty my weapon, or keep fighting, knowing the cost might be more than I'm willing to pay. I looked at my parents, waiting for my answer. My breath caught. Which would I choose? I stood in the doorway, badge in hand, watching my parents' faces morph through hope, desperation, and finally hard-set resolve. The plastic rectangle felt cold against my palm. More than an object, it was the symbol of everything they'd done. Betrayal wrapped in glossy white, stamped vendor access only. My heart pounded so loud, I worried they could hear it. Mom's voice wavered. "Please, Jack, we're sorry. We didn't mean any of it like that." She reached out, hand trembling, as if she were begging someone to catch her. Dad's jaw tightened. "You need to delete those posts. Apologize publicly. Only then can we move forward." Silence stretched between us. I could taste the tension like static in the air. Every fiber of my being rebelled at the idea of erasing the truth, of surrendering my agency. But I also saw their fear, their genuine terror that their carefully constructed image, the American dream veneer they'd shown the world, was crumbling. I closed my eyes, breathing in slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. Don't tell I needed to lean on action, not on dramatic speeches. So I took a step forward. My legs felt like lead, but I held my ground. "No," I said, voice low but firm. "I can't do that. I won't." My words echoed in the hallway. For a beat, nobody moved. Then Mom's tears started again. Dad's expression flickered between fury and hurt. "Jack, please," my mom whispered. "We're your family." I stared at her, and for a moment I almost believed it. Then I remembered the gift table, the kitchen line, Elena's speech, every detail seared into my memory. Family should never hurt you like that. "I know what family means," I answered, voice catching. "And I know what this is." I held up the badge. "This isn't family. It's theft of my dignity, of my trust." Then I turned and walked down the hall, leaving the badge on the console by the front door. It was their turn to decide if they wanted it back. Aftermath. The quiet triumph outside. The air tasted crisp and new. I inhaled deeply, letting go of the stale resentment that had lodged in my chest. Adam was waiting in the car, engine idling. He gave me a nod I didn't have to interpret. "Ready?" he asked. I slid into the passenger seat. "Ready," I said, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. As we pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror at the house where I'd grown up. The windows darkened, silhouettes shifting behind curtains. Maybe they were talking, maybe they were crying, maybe they were plotting their next move. But whatever it was, I had made my choice. The ripple effect. Over the next few days, late-night messages continued popping up, some angry, some pleading, some resigned. But I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on my own life work, friends, stretching muscles I'd neglected in morning runs. I even dusted off my passport, looking up flights to Europe with the money I'd reclaimed from my unapologetic relatives. A week after the final confrontation, I opened my laptop and drafted one last post. This time, it wasn't fiery or accusatory. It was simple. Sometimes, the hardest thing you can do is refuse to let people treat you like less than you are. You deserve respect, especially from those who claim to love you. I shared a photo of the badge lying on my desk, next to an open passport, a testament to a chapter closed. Unexpected reunion. Then, 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Dylan. "Jack, can we meet?" he asked, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I paused. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep the wound sealed, but I also recognized the genuine regret in his tone. "Sure," I replied. "Let's grab coffee." We met at a small cafe, classic American diner style, all vinyl booths and checkered floors. He looked, changed, eyes less anxious, shoulders looser. "I'm sorry," he said before I could even order. "I should have spoken up sooner. I let things slide because I was scared of my family's anger. But watching you stand up, it gave me courage." His words stirred something in me, a flicker of the brotherly sisterly bond that once existed. I nodded. "Thank you." Then I realized that forgiving Dylan didn't mean forgiving Elena or my parents. It just meant acknowledging that he'd been as trapped as I'd been. The final symbolic gesture. After our talk, I walked home under a cobalt sky. I passed the familiar streets of my childhood neighborhood, each house holding echoes of laughter, fights, and memories. I reached my front porch and paused. I still had the crumpled wedding envelope from that day, the one I'd torn open in the middle of the reception and flung onto the gift table. It sat on my desk like a relic from another life. I picked it up and walked to the recycling bin. I hesitated, imagining the rustle of paper as it curled into nothingness. And then I let it go. The envelope, symbol of betrayal and power, drifted into the bin with a soft thud. I felt a pang, then relief. I was done, free. Reflection and universal lesson. It's easy to think family is forever, that blood ties outweigh everything, but sometimes family can be the hardest storm you weather, the trickiest scam you never saw coming. It took losing my place at that wedding, standing with the caterers, invisible, to realize my worth, not as provider, not as a wallet, but as a person deserving respect. So what's the takeaway? Boundaries matter. Standing up for yourself isn't betrayal, it's self-preservation. And yes, it can mean heartbreak, rifts, and the end of certain relationships, but it also means gaining something more precious: self-respect. If you've ever been treated like an afterthought, whether by family, friends, or colleagues, know this. You have the right to demand respect. It might be scary, it might cost you, but true peace comes when you refuse to let others define your worth.
I'm Jack Peterson. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real-life drama and hard-earned lessons. Comment below with your own experiences. How did you stand up for yourself? And remember, the hardest battles often lead to the brightest victories.
Stay strong, stay true, and I'll see you in the next story.